there, it's Paula Roelands with paularoelands.com, and I have had a really busy day, and I had planned and hoped to get started with this video today for you this morning, really early. And as soon as I got all set up, my husband came downstairs and started crashing around in the kitchen, and my daughter started banging around getting ready for school, and I thought, yeah, let's just wait. So I've had a couple of coaching calls, and I've had a couple of clients today, and enjoyed some sunshine after a really, really freezing morning. We had, it was 10 degrees this morning, but I was out for part of my self-care, and this topic is based on the video that I did last week, Friday, when we were talking about beginnings and endings. And that was election day. So some people were pretty traumatized about that, and some people were really excited about that. For me, it made me laugh that everybody was commenting instead of on beginnings and endings on my hair, which it's not quite as nice as what it was right after getting my hair done at the hairdresser. But this is me, this is the way it is, and you just get me as I am. And the comments made me really think about, well, what is it with, what's important about the hair? And it isn't necessarily that it's the hair that's important. And it was so affirming to have people notice a change and be excited for me. And I can tell you that one of the things about getting my hair cut and colored on that day, and I frankly have to say, I'm not a big fan of coloring hair. And some people love it, some people don't love it. It's not the healthiest thing. I have a pact with my 17-year-old daughter, and maybe this is really silly, but I have a pact. She does not want an old mom. She blames us for having her so late. She does not want an old mom. And so I have made a pact with her to not be gray and not show my age, God forbid, until she graduates from high school. That's our deal. So, we make our deals where we can. That is ours. So, in talking about in self-care, so for me, it wasn't planned that way, but I had my hair done, I had my hair cut and colored on that day, and it was wonderful. It was so wonderful. If you've ever had somebody professionally cut your hair and do the shampooing, oh, I could stay there all day. You feel so cared for, you feel so pampered. So I came home, and no matter what happened the rest of that day, I start out the day, and I'm really fortunate that the person who cuts my hair works really early. I was there at 7 in the morning. So the whole rest of my day after that was amazing, because I started out the day with this pampering, this care for myself, and feeling that touch from someone else, which is really, we're meant to connect with other people, so that was a really cool thing. And so it made me think about self-care. That's the long way of saying, that's why we're talking about self-care right now. So the question is, do you practice self-care? And some people may not even know what self-care even is. Maybe they don't do it at all, and maybe they do it and they just don't call it anything. Well, self-care is really just a few basic habits that are really critical to our body and our brain functioning properly. We are not designed to go, 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 go. Clearly, there's a point at which we sleep, and we haven't even figured out all the reasons why we sleep, but we do sleep to restore. And that is part of self-care. That's one thing. But there's more than that. And a lot of the things that we have going on with our health these days has to do with not providing our own self-care. And who better to be responsible for our own self-care than ourselves? Nobody is going to care about us more than we care about ourselves. If they do, that's fantastic. But for the most part, it's up to us. If we can't care for ourselves, then we are not showing other people that we're worthy of being cared about. So why wouldn't you? And in doing that, what is self-care for you? So if you're watching this, comment below on what it is about self-care that you do and why it's important to you. And I thought about this, I think about it every day because I do practice some self-care every day. And I'm healing from an autoimmune disease, so it's even more important for me to really manage my stress. And some of the reasons that you want to practice self-care is to manage that stress, because we all are living in more stresses than we ever have. I don't remember what the statistics are, what the numbers are, but they did report that we are exposed to, in one month of our lives, we are exposed to more stress than our grandparents were in their entire lives. So that means something. Our bodies aren't really designed. This is a new development for our body, and we do not change as quickly in our development as 40 or 60 or even 100 years. Our bodies don't do that. So we haven't adapted to that kind of a lifestyle, yet that's what we're living. So we have to be a little more intentional about it if we want it to work for us. In order to be intentional, there are some certain things that you can put into practice with self-care. So a lot of us have grown up with, hey, the more you sacrifice, the farther ahead you're going to get. And I'm strong, I'm powerful, I can handle this, I can cover this. For a while, when we're young, we're more resilient. The older we get, the less resilient we are. And the more you abuse that opportunity and that ability to do that when you're young, the more tenuous your aging can be, the more challenging that can be, because you've put some stress factors in place that your body is absorbing. So how do you care for yourself? The first things that come to mind, and I started to make note of that, are making sure you eat right. This sounds like your mother, right? Make sure you eat right, making sure you get enough sleep, and making sure you drink enough water. Stay hydrated. But it's even more than that. The important thing is to protect yourself from an overload, a burnout. And the burnout is not just a physical burnout of your muscles. It also affects the burnout of your brain. When we sleep, we have an REM sleep. That's when your file cabinet gets all cleaned out and you keep the memories of the things that are important to you, and the rest is just dumped. And then the deep sleep is when our body restores itself, when our cells regenerate, when all the crap gets, literally and figuratively, when all the toxins and all the waste get redistributed and moved out, freshened up so that you can function for the next day. So that's a burnout too. And if we don't give our body the opportunity to do that with rest or with stress relief, it can't function that well in doing that. Reducing the negative effects of stress, and stress for people is something that we kind of minimize stress because of the toughness aspect, and we can be strong, but also because it's really hard to measure. And unless something is measurable, we as human beings, we don't really quantify that. If you can't quantify it, it doesn't have the same value. It's like a spiritual thing. You can't really measure people's spirituality. But if you are a spiritual person, you certainly have a value around that. So that's one other aspect of it. And then not only that, in our function, by giving ourselves some self-care, it helps us to refocus, and it helps us to focus better so that we can actually perform better. Not only physically if we're competing or just running our daily lives, or if you have 10 kids or even 2 kids, you can run yourself ragged with that. But also to perform better in our work, to perform better in service of other people, and in creating what we want to be and what we want to give to the world. And hopefully that is important to you too. If it's not, we probably have to talk. And there's the purpose of why we're here. If we can't perform that, things are a little bit empty. So let's not go there. So how do you go about doing that? Well, first, you want to practice good emotional hygiene. And what does that even look like? It's not like brushing your teeth. It's not like taking a shower. It's not like washing your clothes. What it is to not ignore when you have stress, when you're sad, when you're feeling a little depressed, when you're anxious. It's paying attention to that, and instead of ignoring it, notice it, acknowledge it, and have some strategies in place to kind of manage that, not in a way of getting rid of it, but why is it there? Take a look at that. Just pause for a minute. If you're feeling like you want to respond, retort to somebody really quickly and harshly, pause for a second and go, where is that emotion coming from? What is that telling me? What is my mind and what is my body telling me about myself right now and where I am in responding like that? Aha! So there's a place you can already make a change just by taking a breath before you respond. And your body is giving you a message of warning. It's our opportunity to pay heed. If it were a baby crying, you would be more likely to respond. Our body doesn't do a big crying like that unless we ignore it, ignore it, and ignore it. That's where you get disease from. It's dis-ease of your body, dis-ease of your mind. A lot of times having to do with stress, which is where you can employ some self-care. So acknowledge it. You can journal. Journaling is a great way. Now, I have one client who just can't write, just can't do it. And they rail against it. It does not do anything for them. But for people who do have the ability to journal, sit down and work through that, that helps. Prayer is another one. Meditation is another one. All those things give your body and your brain a chance to slow down and take notice. And when you take notice, then you can take action. And it doesn't always require action, but then you take notice and you can estimate whether it requires some action or not. And then going right back to eating well, that can really help your self-care in giving your body the opportunity to function with the right tools. Now, what is eating well? That's a whole nother video. And if that's something that you'd like to hear more about, what is eating well to you, you can put down in the comments down there below, what is eating well to you, and we can address that more. Right now, we're talking about self-care, and self-care is really about a whole general aspect that includes your food, and that can be emotional food as well. That includes hydration. With the amount of water in our systems, obviously we can't function without proper hydration. Things start to shut down. So hydration, and your hydration, generally speaking, unless you're super active, and people who are super active are going to know that they need more water because they're going to be thirsty. You need about a half ounce of fluid for every pound of body weight. So if you weigh 120 pounds, that'd be 60 ounces. If you weigh 200 pounds, that'd be 100 ounces. It's kind of hard to overdose on water. Your body will tell you, once you start drinking water, if you're not accustomed to it, once you start hydrating regularly, it only takes about a week before your body starts to get thirsty and tells you. Because as soon as you start drinking, you open up that avenue and your body's like, all right, yeah, I know what to do with this. And now I know how to get thirsty. Now I can feel it. And I'm gonna let this person I live with know when I'm thirsty, when I need that water. And then another is sleep. And I talked briefly about sleep. Now sleep it's relative per person. I think Donald Trump gets like 4 hours of sleep a night. I would say he's on the short end of the stick on that. He's probably not functioning optimally for that. Some people pride themselves on how little sleep they get and how much they can get done. As the child of a bipolar parent, I watched how that cycle works, and it doesn't work really well. It can go, but eventually your body gets really depleted. And when your body is depleted, it can't work. It depletes your brain can't work. And then you go into the downside. You've given so much energy, and maybe you've experienced this with a lot of coffee. If you drink a lot of coffee all morning, and in the afternoon you kind of have this drop in energy because you've utilized a lot of the energy that you had for the day in the morning with all the caffeine. Same kind of thing. So sleep is really important for regulating all those things and making sure we clean out all the stuff we don't need that we take in every day, whether it's thoughts or whether it's toxins, whether it's waste from the food we eat, all that. We are a biosphere, and it goes in and stuff needs to come out. So that cycle, sleep is very important for that. Generally, people are going to be looking at 7 to 8 hours. Teenagers more, which of course, because they're teenagers, it's less for them usually, and they're night owls often. Their circadian rhythm gets a little messed up, so they're usually later getting up and later going to bed. But sleep is generally something that you want to work yourself slowly into. In studies, the function has improved drastically in people's happiness and in people's ability to function by just adding 10 minutes a day for a couple of weeks until you have your body accustomed to sleeping a little bit longer. Waking up naturally is great. What can help you with your circadian rhythm is to, when you wake up in the morning, make sure you get 15 minutes of daylight as soon as possible in the morning. That helps reset your circadian rhythm by stopping the melatonin development and kick you into gear for the day. Eating breakfast is another way to do that. And we talked about that, I think, on Monday, about a good breakfast and what that can do for you. So that's a way to help sleep help you. What else do I have in here? Movement. It's another way to generate good sleep is to get movement into your day and make sure that you do it before 6 or 7 o'clock at night if you have like a 10 or 11 bedtime, and at least 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed. You should finish most of your very active movement. But that movement really is important in balancing everything in your body, and that's excellent self-care. So for me, I take 1 day off a week. But generally, I've been fast walking for, 25, 30 years. And that movement is really important for me to keep my body cycling appropriately. And 6 days a week, at least 5 days a week, I walk for a half hour. It doesn't even have to be fast. It's just getting out, it's getting in the daylight, it's getting the fresh air in your system, and it's moving your body. We're meant to move. And if you don't move, you start knocking out the cycle of your body and your self-care goes downhill. So that's really important. And then in addition to that, some downtime. This is really hard for a lot of people to include downtime in their day. Even if you have to calendar it in your busy day. Give yourself a half hour of just being, breathing, read something that's not a businessy planning thing, that you're not working. Meditate. Just look out the window. Something that's quiet time that you don't have to think about anything. You can just let the thoughts wander a little bit. For me, in my week, I include anywhere from 4 to 7 meditations a week. And those are guided meditations. I use Deepak Chopra and Oprah did a bunch of series, and I use a couple of their CDs to do that. And it's really nice because it's guided. I don't have to time it. I know it's going to be 20 minutes. I turn it on, I listen, I close my eyes, let it happen, and the bell goes off at the end, and that's, oh, okay, I'm done. And I know it's a dedicated amount of time. I know how long it's going to take, and I don't worry or stress about anything during that time. I can just relax. Somebody else is managing it for me. It's just running. It works great. Whether that's prayer or just quiet time. It doesn't even have to be planned. It can just be. TV, sitting in front of the TV, it does not count for relaxation and being time. It is when somebody just and I'm sitting on the sofa so I can be a couch potato. So doing this and tuning into something and just being mindless doesn't really have the same effect. So you want to be intentional enough about the being that you're not engaging actively in something when you're doing it. A book is okay or some other reading material is okay if it's just a casual thing that you're not trying to learn something at the time. You're not trying to apply yourself. So those are kind of the parameters that I go. So that's a little bit about self-care, and I would love to entertain your questions on self-care. So for me, my routine is walking 6 days a week for at least a half hour, and then I do a little more intensity a couple of days a week. I go for 4 miles which is like an hour-ish. So you can vary things around, but get something in there. And then I have reading time that I schedule in. I make sure that I read at least 3 hours a week of non-learning stuff, just relaxation stuff. And then my meditation of 20 minutes a day, probably 5-6 days a week. And that's a good way to start. And if you have questions about something that you're trying that's not working for you, I'd be happy to help you with that too. So you can put your comments down below, and on your phone, I think on the left column, you can click on follow me to get notifications for more things that I have coming up. And my videos are going to be coming out for lifestyle on every Friday, normally a little earlier than this, hopefully in the morning, about 10:30 Eastern time, 8:30 Mountain time, and on Mondays at the same time. I'll be doing that. And the Mondays are going to be health. I think this is my 4th week on this, so it's going to be health as far as foods go and what goes in that's more tangible that you can measure, food, drink, things like that, and the healthy aspects of food. And then we'll do lifestyle on Friday. So if you have questions, throw them down there. I look forward to helping you more and supporting you in your health. So you can go to paularoelands.com for more information or to join my mailing list. You can actually join my mailing list right here on Facebook in the follow me on the left column. I think it's on the left column on both your iPhone and on the computer. And please like my page. Share this video with a friend. I would love to have more people learning a little bit more. This is all about us living a better, more fulfilled, healthy life so that we don't end up in a place where we don't want to be for part of it. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday. And if you have questions before that, hit me up and we'll address it. I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend.